He hits her with this Godfather line.
Yeah.
He's a good guy and you're going to get your tools back, so shut up,
Yeah.
And then she's like, under one condition, if you walk me home.
Well,
but wait,
that's a good episode. That's a good part of the episode, though. But the setup is they're doing their handyman chores. They're cleaning up.
And they see precision tools.
And see a guy working on a watch.
But even that.
And Spock goes, we need those.
Even that, though, Jim's right. Our fine, upstanding Starfleet officers have gone total gangster.
Of course.
Spock standing in the corner nudging Jim to hey, Jimmy.
He's leaning on a broom and he goes like this.
You're mad at me.
No, I'm not
because
mad.
I don't want to do the mission and I'm maintaining my integrity.
No, listen.
I'm not going to steal it and rob
integrity.
Yeah.
Please. Kidnapping Uhura through time and abandoning the mission. Where's the integrity of that?
I'm giving Uhura a safe place to go.
Kidnapping.
I'm going to protect her.
Kidnapping. Trafficking in African communication officers. Guess who's back? Back again. Men on Trek. Season 2, Episode 6. City on the Edge of Forever.
Harlan Ellison.
Yeah, not that he was happy about it. But this is Admiral Looks Good in Red Keith back again with Captain's Courageous. Admiral James T. Captain James T. Palpatine. Captain Mark A. Daystrom. And the guy that actually does all the work, Lieutenant Commander Audio Arthur. Welcome back. This was Season 1, Episode 28, if you don't count the cage, like you Netflix watchers do. Mm-hmm. Original air date April 6, 1967. City on the Edge of Forever.
Actually, one of my top 10.
We didn't know that.
Didn't know that at all. You neglected to put it on our top 10s list.
I thought it was everybody's top 10.
No, it's not one of my woo-ha episodes.
It's a great the other Trek venues ripped from
constantly
this episode
quite a bit. Yeah.
Was this the first time travel episode?
It is season 1. Yeah, it's before they do the whole slingshot thing and Assignment Earth, and yeah, I think it is. I have to double check, but I think it is.
I have some real issues with things that happen in the episode. I won't jump forward to that, but
yeah,
there's it's very well done, but there's a big hole.
There's some stretches.
Pun intended.
There's some stretches. But this is an interesting development. We got a top 10 captain. We got a not so impressed captain. And an indifferent admiral. Not indifferent. It's a good episode, but it's not one of my favorites.
It's a great episode, and it's really thought-provoking.
I remember as a kid watching it, and the reason that I didn't like it was because of the way that it made me feel, and which was not happy, and it didn't have a lot to do with space. So I remember when I was a kid, I was trying to have my mom, and I wasn't into comic books and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. I just never was into it. I didn't have to buy them because you guys did, and then you would tell me the stories, so I didn't have to read them, which is the truth. But I wanted to watch Spider-Man on Channel 20. It was the animated one.
Yeah, the one with the best theme song ever.
Yeah, and
Spider-Man.
It was a weird episode. I wanted my mom to watch it, and it was the worst episode I'd ever seen. It was just him talking. And there wasn't any fighting or anything like that. I remember my mom was very unimpressed. And it was like, that's how I felt about this episode. Just kind of like, there was things happening. It was a great story. But I remember after I saw it, I didn't feel that good about it.
Well, you raise a good point. We grew up in the days when Star Trek was relegated to...
Space Western.
Not even that. Reruns for kids after school. Kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode clearly proves... It reminds you that this was a primetime show and it was aimed at adults.
Right. This is a more cerebral episode.
Yeah, this is
with a lot of connotations on moral questions.
Yes. No kids. Not the kind of stuff a kid's looking for.
Right. This is not the superhero fair.
No.
Where you just punch the bad guy, and if you punch him through a building, well.
Well, I mean, there's a great figurative view of that in this episode. Our heroes are taking out of their Technicolor superhero suits and put in regular clothes.
Primary colors, though.
Flannel.
Primary colors.
Mostly
Superhero
primary.
colors.
But flannel, dude. Spock's got a watchman's cap on. Kirk's in his flannels. They're bums.
Yeah,
It's like finding out. It's like finding out. It's like finding out Superman is homeless.
Man, it's Diamond in the Rough.
No, it's not even Diamond in the
I
Rough.
think that's another franchise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't rub that lamp. But no, it's interesting. It brings it grounds everything because of the setting, and all the glitz and wonder of a typical episode is just gone. And even from the beginning, you start out, ship pulls into orbit over the planet. They explain to you that ripples or disturbances in time have brought them here. They're tracing the source of these signals. And we got our lovely Enterprise. Props to the remaster again, like always.
Oh, yeah.
But much like what we're talking about, only for a second.
Right. You don't spend very much time on the ship at all.
Right.
Or dealing with the ship. It, once again, it's one of those episodes that it's a character study, but it's dealing with the morality and the hard choices
That have
to be made when you're in those situations.
Well, actually, the ship disappears for most of the episode. Spoiler alert.
Well, that's true.
It becomes so unimportant that it no longer needs to exist in this plot.
Well,
true.
it's not necessary.
Right.
The ship is not. It's about the individuals. The ship is just a vehicle to transport from point A to point B. Sometimes it's usable, like in Doomsday Machine or Balance and Terror, but it's primarily about the people on the ship, not the ship itself.
Did you? I mean, I guess I always felt. I agree with what you're saying from a storytelling perspective, but the Enterprise itself to me was a character.
It becomes one.
Yeah.
It becomes one, and it takes on, the Enterprise itself takes on more of a character stand when you get into the first movie, the first Star Trek movie.
No, it's before that. It's in the show.
Nah,
Because you know how it becomes a character in the show? Kirk's attachment to it and how he feels about it makes it almost a living thing.
He speaks to it in one episode. He's like, "I can't ever lose you."
Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It becomes a character in the context of that context.
That's true, but that in that context doesn't reach the audience yet.
Watch, I'm going to hit him with something. Watch him. Just everybody watch his face. It's as much as a character as the Jupiter 2.
See,
And lost his face. he loved the Jupiter 2. He loves the Jupiter 2.
Captain Daystrom laid bare. Captain Daystrom laid bare for all the world to see.
He loves that ship. Loves that ship.
Captain Daystrom laid bare.
that's because my parents had a motorhome and they sold it right before I had a chance to abuse it at 18.
He had flying saucer love.
I had been.
He loved that ship.
Or like
I got another one. I got another one for him. Mach 5. The Mach 5.
of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Mach 5
Speed
is
racer.
totally a character though in Speed Racer. But or like that broken down piece of junk we all love so much in that other franchise.
Oh, I never really liked it. I'm not a huge Millennium Falcon fan.
Get out. Just the door's
It was
behind
a piece of junk.
The door's behind you.
It
Get
was a
out.
piece of junk. The pilot was all that, or he used to be before for that movie dogged him out.
The doors
It made it all about the ship's computer that was female.
the door's behind you. Arthur, mute him.
I agree that the more I learned about the history of the Falcon, the less I was able to identify with.
Well, they messed up down the road, but prior to that,
Oh, they didn't mess up. It's their universe, and this is what they wanted.
I don't want to talk
But
about
let's
it.
let's get off
Can't
of that.
believe you said that.
You're bringing up ships, and you
The Jupiter 2,
you wanted to slide in this ship
Jupiter-
that's a piece of junk.
the Jupiter 2's hanging on strings. How about that?
And when we held on to that ship because the pilot was all that in a bag of chips, and you find out it's not even his skill.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy. Well,
Let's get back to a good sci-fi show.
Guess that's why we're Men on Trek and not Men on Wars. But
Write in if you want us to do Men on Wars.
but don't expect a good response. So yeah, they pull over the planet and they're tracking disturbances in time. And the disturbances are getting more intense. Ship's starting to take damage from them. In fact, Scotty's warning of system overloads. And you get one, and our boy Sulu gets bounced pretty hard.
Yeah, he does.
Gets it exploding console.
I don't know if that's too bad because he ends up in the Japanese woman's lap.
He lands well.
So,
But the purple eyeshadow was
Yeah.
tough.
it
Yeah.
was
That 4K shows a lot. you
Yeah,
know?
4K reveals the makeup.
Yeah.
Everybody had eyeshadow on, like majorly, and
You know what I thought was pretty neat, though, is that the time ripples, Spock was figuring out their patterns. He was plotting them
right.
so they can avoid them.
No,
you
they
know.
were tracing them,
Tracing them? Okay.
tracing
they're
them
tracing.
back.
Yeah.
yeah. And when Scotty warns Kirk of the danger to the ship, Spock says this is of great scientific importance, and Kirk makes the judgment call to continue,
Yeah.
knowing he could lose the ship, and tells Uhura to prepare, transmit his logs for the last week or so, and a few other things to prepare for the possibility that they're the first ship on the scene, and
That's bad.
Kind of helped the second ship out.
yeah,
That's bad.
yeah. So Sulu gets bounced, gets the exploding console to the face, and he lands well. It's good. And McCoy comes up to the bridge to help him out. And Sulu's taken enough damage where McCoy decides to break out a risky drug, something that can only be administered in small quantities.
Which Captain Kirk even questions him
He's like,
about using it.
yeah. And McCoy gives Sulu just a little hit,
Cordrazine?
something like that.
Yeah, Cordrazine.
Cordrazine. I didn't actually catch it this time. Gives him a little hit, and Sulu is back with a smile on his face.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
And McCoy looks at Kirk and says, "You work your side of the street." He said, "Did you have a medical question for me, Jim?" He's like, "Get off me, Kirk. This is my side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm doing." But he does tell Kirk, this stuff in large quantities can kill a man, and it's got to be carefully administered. And just as everybody's kind of getting it together, and McCoy stands up, he's got the hypo in his hands.
Well, he looks at it first,
Yeah.
and he's checking it, and then he's preparing to put it away, and right on time,
Boom.
shockwave.
Shockwave. And McCoy nails himself in the stomach
Self-medicates.
with a full dose. Whatever was in the hypo, he takes it to the stomach and immediately loses it. Storms off the bridge.
Well, he gets up and makes his little tirade about people.
Murderers.
Assassins.
Yep.
I'll kill you.
Wonder what his delusion was.
He was thinking that there were murderers and assassins trying to kill him.
Yeah, murderers and assassins. He's seeing murderers and assassins.
So they try to restrain him, and he throws Kirk and Spock off like little rag dolls.
Yeah.
Makes his way to the turbo lift. There's somebody walking out of the turbo lift. He helps him exit.
Throws him out of the way.
Right now, you're into an episode, and you're thinking, what the heck's going on? McCoy's situation totally overwrites the time distortion
Yes.
that led up to it. You don't know if that's a prime problem or that's just a situational problem
Secondary
causing
problem.
whether or not the episode is going to be about McCoy tripping
Right.
or the time distortion
Mm-hmm.
that's coming off the planet. And it's interesting because normally you're trying to figure out what's going on in the episode. And as of right now, you're like, it's going either way.
Yeah, you don't really know what the real crux to the issue is going to be. And this is different. I mean, psychotic McCoy is, pretty tough character. They put out a security alert, and we see Galloway, one of our favorite red shirts, still alive yet because it's season 1, and they haven't met Captain Tracy yet.
Yeah, he don't get past Omega Glory. Tracy burns him down.
But he's in several episodes before.
Yeah.
So we see Galloway in the hallway looking for McCoy, but he doesn't catch him. And McCoy does something kind of mean. He makes his way to the transporter room and puts the old Starfleet judo on Mr. Kyle.
He leads with a kidney chop.
Yeah.
And then he does the neck chop.
Detailed files of the human anatomy.
Yeah.
Well, it's Fred Flintstone, judo chop chop. You got to hit him with both. Judo chop chop. You got to make sure it works, man.
McCoy did not fail self-defense class. He drops Kyle, strips him of his Type 1 phaser, and beams himself down to the planet.
That's right. That's where he got the phaser from.
Yeah. Beams himself down to the planet. Now, I remember thinking at this point, he knows nothing about the planet. He doesn't know if he can breathe on the planet. But he's not in his right mind, and he beams down to the planet.
He made that luck roll. And he beamed down exactly where he should have.
Yeah.
Well, Spock makes mention that the transporters were aimed directly at the distortion because I think they were planning on going down either way.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
To investigate.
Somebody was going.
What was dealing with the distortion.
Right. So McCoy beams down, and Kirk and company, Kirk, Uhura, Scotty, Spock, and 2 security officers beam down to the planet in search of McCoy and to investigate the anomaly.
Lieutenant Galloway and Lieutenant Forehead. Yeah. Which I think Forehead could have been killed by McCoy. Not that I ever want to rewrite how good the writing is.
Yeah,
There was an opportunity to kill a red shirt that was missed.
This is a peculiar episode. You have 2 red shirts and no red shirt. None of your red shirts bite the bag.
Well, I'm very pro, red shirts living. I enjoy when red shirts don't die.
But later on in the episode, we get one of my most enjoyable.
Oh,
Don't spoil it.
Okay, we won't.
That's one of my favorite parts in this episode as well.
I don't remember it. I think that might have been edited out or something.
No, it wasn't.
No, it was always there.
No. I'll never forget individuals fooling, low-tech people fooling with high-tech items.
Don't. Patience, grasshopper.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there. You're the kind of guy that would tell a kid what he got for Christmas, aren't you?
We already discussed this. Read the last page of every book.
Yeah, I know. Stop it.
So the landing party also includes Uhura, Scotty,
Spock, 2 security officers, and Kirk.
It was good to see Uhura down there.
Yeah, Uhura got to get off the ship. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why they took her, but she was there. Phasered up.
Probably wanted to give her more screen time.
Well, I mean, yeah, in real life, sure. I'm just mean from a story standpoint. With everything going on, why check your chief communications officer down to the planet?
Have to communicate with somebody.
She gonna sweet talk McCoy off the ledge, get him to come home peaceably.
Could be.
So they get down there, and there's this
Arch
bagel. This giant LED bagel.
I thought more of it like an arch, like
It was circle. It was a full circle, though.
No, it wasn't. Well, it was misshapen. It wasn't.
I always thought of it as the donut.
Yeah, because they had to jump over the bottom of it.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the outer edges of it, though. It wasn't a uniform shape. It was just kind of.
Yeah, but it was more a deformed donut than anything else.
A giant pretzel.
Wouldn't
the Guardian.
I never thought of it as an arch per se, because an arch I think of has no bottom other than the ground itself.
Mm-hmm.
And this came around with the bottom part.
Well, it wasn't the Arc de
Oh,
Triomphe.
it's a portal.
Definitely a portal.
Known as the Guardian.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Spock begins to do his thing. He analyzes it. It's tens of thousands of years old.
What did he say? He said it was 100,000 centuries?
Something like that. It was an infinitesimal amount of time.
Yeah.
And Spock's going around. He's doing a general analysis of it. And he's like, this is amazing technology. This is extremely old. And he asks a question. And the donut says a question.
Well, Jim asked the question. Captain Kirk asked the question. And the donut answers.
A question. It says, I have been waiting since before your species existed for someone to ask me a question.
Wow.
I just had a thought, and it sort of reminded me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That one planet with the supercomputer that knows everything, and it was waiting for the guy to come ask the question.
And the answer was 42.
Yeah, in essence, but it gave them the design in Hitchhiker's Guide to build a computer that can answer the question.
Right.
And that design was actually Earth.
Right.
With all this multitude of people to answer the question, what's the meaning of life?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I thought of when in the episode, the Guardian asked, I waited for you to ask the question. I know that's somewhat of a tangent, but that's what came to my demented mind.
I found it interesting that speaking to Jim's feeling on the episode of how it makes you feel, or there's a bit of a bleakness to it. This thing's been sitting here for uncounted centuries waiting for somebody to show up and ask a question. It's got all this power. It's designed to do all these things. It's got all this power, and it's just sitting there waiting for somebody to come.
Well, yeah, as Captain Kirk asked the question of it, are you alive?
Or a machine.
Or are you living, or are you a machine? It says both
both.
And neither.
In your limited understanding.
Well, then Spock hits it with, what's with the riddles? And he's like, I'm talking to you in a way you can understand.
Right. He says your intellect is far below mine.
Yeah.
So once again, we're looking at an advanced civilization that has died off. Right?
They don't ever say it. But it's implied. There's wreckage. Right.
It's a large city. It's been abandoned for thousands of years. They're not thriving. So,
right. And as Jim,
the opposite of thriving is what?
Yeah,
they died off.
Now, behind the scenes, yes, that is absolutely the intent. The writer Harlan Ellison had a very different vision in mind for when they beamed down to the planet. You would have seen a more extensive city, and it would have been very evident that this was some ancient civilization that had died off.
And he had written it in a way that there were people there. They were speaking to the people.
Yeah, there were people there.
And don't worry, Mark, this was a documentary that
we shouldn't have.
The Admiral and I were self-inflicting torture on ourselves a few weeks ago watching it. But
the interesting point, because the behind-the-scenes bone of contention for this episode is that Harlan Ellison wrote this episode, and Gene Roddenberry and company messed with it, and he was very unhappy about the alterations they made to his writing. He had a very different vision for when they got to the planet and what they were going to see, and so on and so forth.
Whether there were people there or not, in the episode we're dealing with is the ruins, and the
town square has a donut in it,
and the donut is there.
Yeah.
Well, let's, this is going to be a tangent, but I think it's a necessary one. Why would you build this? Why would you build the ability to go back in time knowing that by virtue of doing that, you could destroy your future?
Only if you go back in your time. You can go back in somebody else's time, and it probably won't do anything to your future.
Hubris, you have the ability to do it, therefore you think you can control it?
No, there's another episode similar to this.
Yeah, it is.
Where they come upon a planet, and
they're escaping a supernova.
The inhabitants of the planet are going back in their own time.
Right.
Well, they get to pick.
They get to pick, except for...
Wasn't that the library?
Yeah.
Except for...
Memory Alpha?
I think so.
No, it wasn't Memory Alpha.
It wasn't Memory Alpha?
So, except for a couple of prisoners who had caused sedition, were punished and sent back in time.
Right.
That's where Spock meets the woman in the frost zone.
Yeah.
But so there's been a play on this episode within the Star Trek continuity in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But in both cases, you have very advanced civilizations, both with the capabilities of going back in time. The one civilization is going back within their time. The Guardian of the Gate of Forever seems like he can go back in anybody's time.
Anywhere, anytime, any species, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, to Jim's point, why make that? And I just think it's they could, so they did.
The one with the frost planet and everything I get, because the implication was, at least that's the way I understood it, is you could go back in time, but you wouldn't affect the future. Like everybody on the planet picked a time, whether they wanted to be a gladiator or whatever, but it didn't destroy their future, because you would figure the first few people that went through, if they changed it, you wouldn't have the portal to do it anymore. And in this one, it was instantaneous.
Yes.
As soon as McCoy go, well, I won't jump ahead.
Well, we're there. There's an explanation.
So they're having a conversation and they're exploring the Guardian.
The Guardian identifies the donut identifies itself as the Guardian of Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Guardian, though. I mean, it's not stopping anybody. If I'm the Guardian, I'm not letting you.
You're not preventing anybody from using it.
Not doing anything with it. I'm not letting you get in any time shenanigans if I'm the Guardian of Forever. Not letting you in.
Interesting play.
Yeah.
Interesting thought. You're right. He's not really guarding anything. He should have been said, "I'm the gate."
Yeah. I'm
forever.
the gate of forever. Because he's like, hey. He's like, hey, here it is. Here's your past. I can do anything. I can send you anywhere. Check it out. Rome scrolls by. Rome scrolls by.
Well, I mean, I think it's important. I'm not sure I buy that explanation of what he is or she or they. It's the word guardian was used on purpose.
Yes, but it wasn't guarding.
So that's the point we're making.
Yeah,
it's in the title. It sounds impressive, but the gate ain't keeping nobody out, so it's not doing its job.
Well,
now if it says I'm the Watcher of Forever, okay,
yeah,
then you can go watch or go through.
That's more accurate.
But it's not guarding. It's not. It didn't let crazy. It didn't stop Crazy McCoy, who should have been the guy stopped from going back there and changing something.
Yeah, I don't think you can create a device like that with you probably should have, with a fail-safe that you can't just step into it. I think the Guardian's role was going to be to explain to them. Yeah. You can go back or you can go to any place, anytime that you want, but just understand that may change your future.
But that doesn't guard anything.
And
so the usage of the word.
Well,
let's say the Klingons showed up and they said, we want to go back and destroy Zephram Cochrane's ship or something like that. He may say, no, I'm not going to let you do that.
No, I think you'll let him.
Destroy,
so?
Just destroy Earth before they have space travel if you're going to do that.
I think the Guardian will let him.
Well,
remember, it's forever. It doesn't matter what happens then. Let's go on. So we might as well get
No, but
there.
this is a good moral question.
McCoy's going to do his shenanigans. They're going to catch him with the Vulcan neck pinch.
Right.
And as they're discussing
how the machine works, right?
The Guardian, Kirk makes a thought. He makes a statement. Could we go back in time to where McCoy
has not hurt himself,
has not injected himself with the Cordrazine, and fix this problem? At this point, McCoy wakes up and does a beeline and jumps through the donut.
Right.
If the Guardian was going to prevent anybody, it would have prevented McCoy, because McCoy's doing that. Their communicators stop working. The ship disappears.
Right.
In that instant McCoy goes through, he changes the future. If the Guardian's going to let McCoy do that, I don't think he would stop a Vulcan from doing it, a Klingon from doing it, an Andorian from doing it. Anybody who can get there can go waltzing through the donut and mess up any timeline.
Here's the weird thing when you talk about these type of episodes. Like, he affected the future, but from where they were, he affected the past. So they had no future.
That's right. True. That's true. You're looking at a classical time paradox story.
Right.
But I was even thinking, just kind of wrapping up the first thought, if you have the technology to do this and you want to be safe about it, okay, make a thing where I can look, but I can't go.
Stargate.
Well, at Stargate, you could still go.
Yeah, but Stargate generally didn't affect time.
No, it was not time travel. It was spatial travel.
Right.
But in this thing, okay, it's the same thing, and I can stand there and I can look at anything I want, and I'm okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Because
But I can't go.
Because Spock even says that I'm a fool. I could have been recording
everything,
all these events,
right?
And maybe that's what this is. Like maybe we're taking it for granted that it was built for time travel. Maybe what it was built for was like a super sophisticated tricorder that could show you events from the past and you could learn from them.
Except that they built it so that you can go. So,
well, what are we expecting? There'd be like a piece of tape across.
So what we have
fall into a nuclear reactor.
What we have to do is keep it in context. The individuals who built it could probably alter how fast things happen, because the people on the planet, when the future was changed, they didn't disappear. The Enterprise did off the planet, but everybody on the planet was still there.
Well, that's the common time paradox story. If you're at the center of the paradox, nothing happens.
So if I create a device, you might go back in time and change something outside the planet, but I'm still on the planet. I can send somebody in and fix it.
So is that the Guardian's role then? He guards those who are near the portal when a choice is making. Because to your point, Mark, they all should have been wiped out.
That's right.
They all should have went poof.
That's right, but they didn't. Now, I'm not going to say they didn't because of the intricate writing. I didn't watch the video.
For once, they didn't get into that.
I think this was necessary to move the story along.
Of course. And for once, and on a rare occasion, I actually got a little bit of a problem with Kirk's idea to try to use this thing to jump back in time a few hours to stop McCoy from injecting himself is kind of wacky to me.
Oh, we called that out as wacky.
Right. It doesn't make sense. One, up until this point, even though they say the drug is potentially lethal, I don't remember them ever saying McCoy's going to die for sure.
Right.
He's OD'd on the drug. He's gone nuts. They've caught him.
All he needed was a couple of days in bed and a cup of coffee.
But the point, the reason that statement is in there is to put it into the mind of the audience.
Right.
That this can be used from that. And there's a statement I made to Lieutenant Commander Arthur. Most everybody will have that thought, if I could go back in time, what about Hitler? What would I do about these events?
Right. Would I mess with, would I change things?
That have transpired before I got here, that I've heard that are horrible in our planet's history. Yeah. Would I do anything different? Or am I now culpable for all those lives that are lost that I had the ability to correct or to redress? There was a show, and he became the captain of the Enterprise TV show. What was his name? He was going back and forth. He was jumping through time. Jonathan Arthur.
Archer.
Jonathan Archer.
Yeah.
He was on the show before.
Before
he got started.
Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm. And it was
Scott Bakula.
He got hit with some,
but only within his own lifetime.
Some energy, and he was moving back and forth through time, correcting issues.
Yes. In his own lifetime. This is now obviously they took a point out of the Guardian of Forever, but this is a thought. When you go back in time, will you correct anything or will you not correct anything? And this is the moral play we get into later in this episode, when they actually find out what's going. Because right now we know McCoy went back, and as soon as McCoy went back, they lost contact with the Enterprise. Right.
Something's changed, and the only thing that's changed is McCoy went through the donut.
Well,
McCoy had to have done something or inspired somebody to do something. That's another issue about contamination.
Well, we know what really happened. McCoy popped up and said he was the Archangel Gabriel.
Yeah.
That's what really happened. He finally did it.
It's about time. But it's interesting, too, though, so we thought it was a bad idea to try to but they discussed with the Guardian about the playback speed.
Yeah.
And he said, this is the way that I was designed to show this, which was interesting because it's like you get it, but on our terms, not your terms. You get it on our terms.
And see, that creates another problem with going. The time period you want to see is scrolling by at like 50 years a second or something, and you want to go somewhere. So now you got a roulette element in this thing.
Right.
It's like on your marks, get set, jump.
Well,
I missed my time.
Well, that's the writers put that in there to give gravity to them at least going.
Put a sense of urgency on it.
To put not a sense of urgency, because they got all the time in the world, because they can go back and forth through time. A sense of danger.
Yeah.
Because we might go and miss McCoy by a month, a year. And Kirk even said that when he landed. We don't know where he landed in New York or Timbuktu. And Spock makes a statement. Well, some believe there's a general flow in time, and there's key
that
points.
happens after they get there.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's key points in time. This is a whole Doctor Who thing.
Oh.
It is. There's key points in time. In Doctor
where
Who,
you must intervene.
in Doctor Who, there's key points in time that are fixed.
Right.
Nothing you can do will change it.
them.
There's one episode where Doctor Who goes back to, I think it's Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah, Pompeii must happen. Pompeii is one of those fixed events.
And it's a fixed event no matter what you do, no matter what the doctor does.
Vesuvius must erupt.
Vesuvius must erupt and the city will be wiped out. He doesn't fix it.
Yeah.
He doesn't fix it at all.
They've touched on that a few different times.
So Star Trek does this point that in this episode that there's key points, and as we said before,
not so much key points in the Doctor Who sense, but that there's a flow that will take you in the same general direction.
No, what I'm talking about is a thought. Remember, Star Trek came before everybody else.
No, Doctor Who is 1962.
Yeah, but not the Vesuvius.
Doctor Who is 1962.
Not the Vesuvius episode. That was in 2000. Those key points, because Doctor Who started, he wasn't like he was in our later episodes.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. We burn up a lot of time talking about that. But.
So Star Trek is laying a foundation, and a lot of people have followed it, and some people have tried to be different from it. Mm-hmm. You know, the branching timeline thought. But here, it's a direct repercussion on what's done. Mm-hmm. And because those 6 people were on the planet, they weren't affected. Or
I think the Guardian kept him from being affected. He created, that space-time bubble is around them. But here's the this is the problem I had, but it also would support my argument of his guardianship, right? And that is he says everything that you knew is gone, but if you go back and fix it,
it's all you reset.
I'll bring you back.
Right.
You automatically come back.
Now that's a guardian. That's somebody who's saying, do what you want, but if you choose to go and fix things, I'm going to bring you back. Because that was the one hole for me in this plot was,
how do I get back?
Yeah. What all of a sudden does the portal open up where you're at?
Well, they put a little more. They put a little more meat around it, but that's essentially the gag in any paradox story. If you fix the paradox, you snap back because you never left in the first place, is generally what they do. In this case, there's a specific, if you fix the problem, yeah, I'll bring you back. It's the same idea. This just got a little more structure around it. Mm-hmm. I'll bring you back if you fix the issue.
It gives more weight to the Guardian himself or itself.
And then to me, there was this really dark moment in this episode. And I don't really remember feeling the way that this made me feel. Kirk turns to Scotty and he says, give us enough time, but if we don't
do it, you have to try.
No matter what, all of you have to try.
Right.
And I just, the gravity of, I thought he was going to tell Scotty, we're going to go, we don't come back, take care.
Do the best you can.
Do the best you can here or whatever. But he was like, we're going on a suicide trip and you're going to have to do the same thing. All of us are going to have to try
until we get this right.
Well, I think Uhura actually asked a question. What about us? I think she asked the question.
Well, I know she says she's afraid.
She says she
Right,
tells
she's
him she's
afraid.
afraid. My thinking, just as a side thought, knowing what we know, they should have called up to the Enterprise and somebody should have answered in German. somebody should have said,
No, it's gone.
No, it shouldn't have been gone. Should have just been a little different.
They never would have made it. They never would have reached out in space. They never would have conquered their fears. But this is later on because it doesn't exist.
I disagree with that, considering the outcome they say occurred and knowing what those people were doing. I think Scotty should have rang up the Enterprise and somebody should have said, "Guten Morgen."
Yeah.
But anyway,
When we get there and talk about it, I can see how there's really no way out of
there isn't.
the position that they were going to find themselves in. So, do you notice they're all red shirts there? That's a beautiful picture for the Admiral.
Yeah.
All the red shirts standing there together and none of them dead.
Yeah, put me in there with all the living red shirts.
Mm.
As much as you like Uhura, you should have a little more red shirt love there, Mark. You really should.
I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love you. I just love Uhura more.
That's okay. I understand. She looks better in red than I do. She does. My hat is off to her.
So the gravity here.
It's serious.
It's not a touchy-feely episode. It's not a lighthearted episode by no stretch of the imagination.
Honestly, when I think about it, and this might be why I never loved the episode that much, kind of like what Jim was talking about, this might be the darkest episode in the old series. I can't think of anything where the tone was as grave.
So that's why I like it. That's why it's in my top 10. So the conversation, he's saying that everything's changed, and Scotty says it's like you look. It's like the needle in a haystack.
Right. How are you going to
the possibilities that you find them will be you'll need a miracle.
Right.
And Kirk goes, yeah, that's true. Spock and I are going to go, and each one of you is going to have to try.
I have to try.
Because you're on this rock. There's no way to get off of it. There's no ship to come get you.
So
it's abandoned. It's a barren world.
So if things go really bad, it comes down to Galloway and Forehead save the universe?
Yep.
That's not a good prospect.
Well,
I mean, I got a lot of confidence in Galloway till he fails to be quick on the draw. But
so I'm gonna throw a wrench here in the machine. Do you send your two top guys through first?
Yes.
Okay.
In this scenario, my best chance has got to be my first shot.
Because if I'm Galloway and Spock and Kirk fail, what do I think I'm going to do?
I'll pick the most advantageous time, and I wouldn't even try to find McCoy. Okay, we're all right. This is going to land me in Hawaii. No wars around. That's where I'm going. Sayonara, the rest of you. But I'm gonna make sure Uhura goes with me because
here we go again.
Here we go. Because
Damn
she's not gonna have anybody else, and she's gonna be out of time. And then if she's with me, I can comfort her in the loss of our world.
Yeah.
So terrible.
Yeah.
She might actually have something to say about all that.
Yeah.
She gets to pick after I phaser the other three guys.
No, what if she's more courageous than you and she wants to actually tackle the problem?
I'll deep sixes as we're looking. I see McCoy and I go, turn away.
This does not.
Don't worry about it.
This does not like imbue me with confidence that Daystrom's gonna get out here and save the day. This is just filling me.
Oh, it's about saving yourself.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm right.
You gonna get
great?
No, you are not great. You are a rat.
Give it to me.
You are great. I am great.
You are a rat. You are a rat. That is terrible. That is terrible.
So they jump through the portal and they come out on a street.
And they land in the back lot of Paramount Pictures, Desilu Studios. 1930. The Great Depression.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like everything about this episode is not. There's not a lot of happy. Could have been the Roaring '20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
A lot of tassels and a lot of dancing.
It was the broken 30s.
Yep.
It was broke. It was the broke 30.
They show up on the street. They know they're out of their element. Fish out of water story now.
Their Technicolor uniforms.
But I like how they hid themselves. Like anytime somebody would see him, like Kirk would put his hand up.
Spock was covering up.
He couldn't see them, and then they would turn and walk away.
I was imagining how people in 1930 will react when two guys pop up wearing these bright gold and blue shirts, just looking completely.
But it was probably the best time because people were broke and hungry.
Right, it's the depression. People
and they don't care what these two clowns are doing.
Right.
They probably thought they were circus clowns.
They got bigger fish to fry.
That's right.
I'm trying to eat tomorrow.
That's
I don't
right.
care what you dress like.
Yeah.
You taking cuts in the breadline, Daystrom? You taking cuts in the breadline? Saving yourself? Moving that poor widow and her urchin child out of the way so you can get some bread?
Oh my goodness. Just because I wasn't looking for McCoy doesn't mean I'm gonna steal food from a baby.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna find a good place in history to live.
Let the universe perish.
Where would you go?
Where would I go?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Where would you go?
That's interesting.
Now remember, take everything into account. Where would you go? Where would you go?
You have a lot less options.
Where would you go?
I don't know.
Don't say Africa. It's not going to work.
I don't know. If I got a phaser, I might be the next warlord. Me and Tracy might have something going on.
No, but just in time.
Judea, 30 AD.
That's interesting. You got to deal with the Romans.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got
To meet Christ.
Yeah. Not 30 AD.
Oh.
You get to meet Peter, Paul.
No, I meant Annos Dias, year of the, not after the death. So he would be 30.
He would be 1.
Well,
that's B. Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, never mind. My mistake. Mm-hmm. You're right.
Because the time changes after his death.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was the year of his birth.
No, that's where it's off. AD is after death.
No, it's Annos Dias. I know
the
that.
Day of
for
the
sure.
Lord.
Day of the Lord.
The year of the birth of the Lord, Annos Dias.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I thought it actually switches when he dies. Mm-mm. Oh well.
But anyways, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
Would you go back when Christ was alive to Judea?
Well, that's a whole nother thing.
Witness the Sermon on the Mount.
That's a whole nother thing, because I think in that scenario, you jump, the Guardian lets you jump, and you land, and right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, he goes, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, he can send you back.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, Jesus, we got a problem.
No.
Our starship disappeared.
No, Jim.
McCoy, I need you to fix this, man.
No. Jim goes 30 AD and jumps and comes right back out. Comes right back. Where would you go, Daystrom? Phaser or not? Where would you go?
That's interesting. I never thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it. Other than the hypotheticals, if you go back where you kill Hitler and all that stuff.
But here's the problem I have with that. This is the problem that I have with that. There was an entire half of the world that couldn't kill Hitler. So just because you can time travel doesn't mean that you can do anything.
Well,
you can't do. Let's take the Kennedy thing. Okay, let's say you go back and you're like, oh, I know Kennedy's you're gonna pick up a phone and call somebody. Hey, listen, it's like it was on the day on Edge Forever or something with Tom Kurtz and what's her name?
Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Edge of Forever.
Yeah, and what does she say? Psych ward or dissection? Nobody's you're not gonna stop anything. What are you gonna do? You're gonna run out to the limo
to the grassy knoll.
The Secret Service is gonna shoot you. Shoot you. You can't stop anything.
You camp out on the grassy knoll and you phaser the first guy that looks funny.
But Mark.
No, I wouldn't. I would find it somewhere nice to hold up and live my life.
Don't you know there were 3 shooters? No. No.
Well, that's the whole point. The whole point is,
but the problem with that plot thing is what I'm saying is that just because you can go back in time
doesn't mean you.
Most people couldn't open a bank account.
Yeah.
You know, what
Yeah.
was that? What was the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeves, and he goes back to Mackinac Island and everything.
Yes.
And what tripped him up? He took a coin out of his pocket
Right.
that was from the future, and it threw him out of that loop. Like, you're not doing anything. You're not saving anybody. You're not killing it. How are you going to kill Hitler?
Well,
You're going to walk up to him and shoot him? You can't get within 100 miles of the guy.
Couldn't even blow the guy up.
There is a real world historical precedent for the kill Hitler question. And you know, I don't want to go down my history rabbit hole, but the British military got an assassin team in the late 30s within shooting range of Hitler, and their assignment was to kill Hitler.
Yeah, but that you just made Jim's point. The whole British military did it, and they couldn't do it.
No,
they couldn't do it.
No.
It didn't get done, so they couldn't do it.
No, they could do it. Here's what happened. The team observed Hitler for enough time to figure out that he was more of a hindrance to Germany alive than to get him out of the way and let German high command kick their behinds. They left him alive on purpose.
I don't know about all that.
No, it's true. It's true. They saw how nutty he was and realized he was a hindrance to the Reich, and they left him.
I don't think you need
left him in play.
You didn't need a commando team to figure that out.
They made that decision on observation.
But anyways, the point is that it would be like us going out. Let's say we something's terrible, 9/11, and this, that, and the other stuff. What are you going to do? You're going to call people. You're going to send an email. You're going to get on one plane.
No, you'd have to.
You're trying to get people to believe you. It's like you're not going to get anything.
Going to the event is pointless. You'd have to go back further and prevent the whole thing from coming together.
It's the whole thing with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. They knew the Japanese had a plan.
England did.
No, the United States knew.
They didn't know what they were going to do.
They didn't know what they were going to do. They knew something massive was
something
being planned.
Something was brewing. Yes,
towards Pearl Harbor.
Yes,
couldn't prevent it. So the thought when you're writing a story about time travel, that's why time travel stories are so bad.
That's why. I hate them.
You guys hate them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I came to hate them because of what we're talking about. You can't.
It's hard to write them.
It's hard to write them, and generally the people take the lazy way out.
I'm a Marvel fan in that.
Endgame was crap.
Yeah, I'm a Marvel fan in that, Robert Downey Jr. and
they called out the time travel trope.
As soon as they mentioned time travel, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Have we run out of ideas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anytime you got the only time travel story that works is because they structured it so that none of this junk applies is Doctor Who. And in Doctor Who, the time travel is just a device to take you to different locations. It doesn't really matter.
I loved the Tom Cruise movie with Emily Blunt.
Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow's good.
Because you know why? It was based on Japanese animation.
Yeah.
And you had one day.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you had to die.
Yeah.
And if you didn't,
reset.
But that's all you had. And you could spend years
messing around with that. Yeah.
Messing around trying to, it's like a Groundhog Day, but, the worst case scenario, and that, you have to watch people die over and over again. So.
Including yourself.
So let's get back to
hold on.
The episode.
We went all around in that. Jim, you answer your own question. Where would you jump to?
See, I wouldn't go.
You got to go.
I got to go?
Yeah, because McCoy went. You either going to go.
No. We're talking about
go rescue.
No, we're taking the Daystrom. We're taking the Daystrom route. If you say bump it, I'm going to save myself and jump into the time stream. Where you going?
Right. So he said he wouldn't go. You got to go because you're going to die on the planet. So I'm keeping it all in reference to the episode.
Yeah, you have no realistic way of surviving on the planet if you don't go. That's true.
So you're either going to save McCoy or you're going to find a nice place like I am and hold up for the.
But I would probably try to go to the most recent exit
her.
point on that highway. So in other words, can I go back a week ago?
Okay.
I go back to Starfleet.
That's what Kirk
a week ago.
That's what Kirk was going to do.
Yeah.
Now when you do that, you blink out in 7 days. theoretically.
Yeah, but I'm not going to live in Victorian medieval times and die of infections and.
You don't want a little dysentery?
No.
It's not working for
no
you?
No running water, no flush toilets, things like that. I can't do that.
Little black plague for the Constitution? No?
Yeah. Well,
Okay. All right.
room temperature pork, no.
Yeah.
Passing on all that.
All right, so
Moldy bread.
beyond the thought of the time travel issue in the episode, they get into the city. They never even mentioned what city it was. They didn't say it was New York. They didn't say it was Chicago. They never mentioned the name of the city they wound up in.
No, they don't. Unless they flashed it on the newspaper.
No, they kept showing the
something.
Brooklyn Bridge, for goodness sake.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so
That's
it's New
right.
York.
So it is New York.
Oh.
So the first thing they have to do is get proper attire
And they
because
steal
they
it.
stand out like sore thumbs.
And they steal it.
But the higher function of these men of the future, they automatically revert to theft.
Theft was logical.
And Captain Kirk does the Robin Hood scenario. We're stealing from the rich.
No, he can't even convince himself. He says, "We're stealing from the rich to
Give to the poor.
back to somebody later." Yeah.
Well, that's a Robin Hood scenario.
No, he knew
It's a
it.
justification.
He
we
knew
know.
he knew nobody was getting anything back.
But they still had to steal. And then they come across a police officer.
And I'm pretty sure that police officer was the same guy that played the security chief that Charlie X blanked out of existence in the gym. I think that was the same actor.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the
Think you're
same
right.
actor. Because he played a bunch of roles during the show. He played a gladiator in the Gladiator episode, too.
So they get away from the police officer by the Vulcan neck pinch.
Which is the second time in the episode.
Wait.
What?
Ban-worthy moment. Kirk's explanation of Spock
Oh, that he's Chinese?
in 2021, baby.
That he's Chinese? In
First of all, he's
his
Chinese.
head-
First of all, he's Chinese. Second of all, what they say?
his head got stuck in a rice picker.
A rice picking accident.
Mechanical rice picker.
Mechanical rice picking accident. Ooh.
Bobbed his ears.
Yeah, gave him those pointy ears.
Mm-hmm.
Shame.
So what point were you making?
Yeah, we're going with this.
I just wanted to say it. No. I just wanted to say it because what struck me about it was just like, wow.
So they take the stolen clothes, they run into an open basement, and enter Joan Rivers, young Joan Rivers.
Joan Collins.
Joan Collins.
Joan Collins.
Not Joan
Let's get the
Rivers.
two confused.
I don't know how that's possible.
Blonde, brunette, funny, not funny, at least not funny in this episode.
Why would you say Joan Rivers isn't funny?
No, Joan Collins.
Oh,
isn't funny. Joan Rivers was very funny.
But as they change, they come across Edith Keeler.
Edith Keeler.
Joan Collins.
Edith Keeler.
Coming down the
Coming down the stairs.
softly lit staircase to highlight
All her
all her
femininity.
beauty.
I'll tell you, Spock looked really green in this 4K. He looked real green. How come he's not explaining the greenness?
He's got jaundice.
It should be yellow.
Close enough.
It's New York in the 30s. I
New
think
York
they
in the 30s.
Wow, he is super green.
it's New York in the 30s. They should have just said Spock's last name was Nimoy and ran with it. It's fine.
So Joan Collins comes down, and they inform her that they're down on their luck. They haven't eaten. They stole the clothes, and because she tells them to be forthright with me, and they
Right.
start to be brutally honest
Yes.
or be very truthful in
Tell
all
the truth.
cases,
Yes.
because that's one of her conditions. And then they enter into the soup kitchen, and it's feeding time for the masses.
But there is one thing here before Edith come down the stairs. Spock's got the tricorder, and he's like, if I could use the ship's computer for 1 minute, I could solve the problem.
Yeah, that's true.
And Kirk puts a little manipulation on Spock. He says, so you can't build a computer? And Spock, of course, says how hard it would be, and it'd be like trying to do it, short of rocks and sticks. And Kirk just kind of shrugs and goes, you're right. You can't do it. I ask too much of you. And Spock actually looks at him like, really, dude?
You trying to manipulate me, man?
But it works.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it does. Spock's not manipulated. He knows what Kirk's doing. It doesn't work.
I don't know. Kirk was working on Spock. I don't know. I think it kind
Spock
of
was in his feelings at the moment. He was talking about how bad it was, and Kirk. It's the same thing from what is it? Aliens, where what's that one character? Bill Paxton.
Hudson.
Yeah, Hudson. We're screwed, man. We're screwed. Get your head together, Hudson. I just need you to find this, and then he stopped complaining and was able to positive use.
We're in some furry stuff now.
Some pretty stuff now.
We're in some
Man.
pretty furry stuff now.
This little girl survived. Put her in charge.
That's you. That's
Put
Hudson.
her in charge then.
If this was men on Sulaco, that's Hudson right there.
Man, Sulak. Sulak.
United States Colonial Marines. Mark's not going. Send the little girl. I don't care.
I would have been the first one to say nuke it from orbit.
It's the only way to be
Nuke it
sure.
from orbit. The only way to be sure, baby.
And then, so they're eating they're getting ready to eat their soup and bread. And
In
there's
the
a guy
flop
sitting next
house.
to Kirk and says, look, it's not free. She's going to come out and do her do-goody. But, what I would really want. And then Kirk's like, shut up.
Kirk's like, shut up.
And then she comes out and basically talks for 5 minutes about Starfleet.
Yeah, So, fellas, question that came to my mind in this scene and later it's 1930 and she's laying out the future of mankind with uncanny accuracy
Mm-hmm.
and not unspecific.
There'll be 13 of these ships, and only one will survive, and its captain will become an admiral.
and he'll be about this tall. And she puts her hand over Kirk.
She'll look a lot like him.
And she'll say, and he'll be blonde. And his first officer will have a
green
rice picker accident.
Mm-hmm.
Uncanny prediction of future events for 1930. So, visionary, intelligent woman,
Visionary,
or
intelligent woman.
clairvoyant,
Visionary,
prophetess.
visionary, intelligent woman.
Yeah, not any more than that. No.
Paul Atredies, little prescience.
Nothing more than that.
Nothing more than that.
Visionary and intelligent.
Yeah.
I won't give her any supernatural digs at all. Visionary and intelligent.
Time disturbance wasn't tweaking her brain.
Nope.
No,
Mm.
no guardian interference.
Mm. I'm gonna call Guardian interference on this one. I'm gonna throw the flag.
You think so? You think so?
I think so.
It's
I never picked it up as that.
I don't
Could
really,
be.
I don't believe that's the intent, but she's so spot on and like if when you're a little kid and you're daydreaming about the future, rocket ship, okay. But she says one day we'll harness the atom.
Yeah.
One day we'll journey to the stars in spaceships. And
Constitution class.
yeah, we will do X, Y, Z, P, D, Q. And it's just like, whoa.
We'll fight the Romulans.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll submit. I'll submit to what you guys think, but I never read. When I watched this episode, and it's one of my top 10, I never read it like that.
And I'm messing around a little bit because I don't believe they intended that. But the way it comes across, it's like, girl,
Who co-wrote this? Who co-wrote this?
well,
DC Fontana did she?
I think you can actually. I'm a big fan of DC Fontana.
I am too, huge.
Okay, don't get me wrong.
This episode's got my two favorite people in it.
Right, but you can tell what's DC Fontana in this and what Harlan Ellison is.
Super strong female character.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about. I don't think Harlan Ellison was writing this to talk about what the future was going to be.
No.
This was dark.
Yeah.
This was like
His treatment was dark.
yeah, this is dark.
His treatment
and
was
he
dark.
even hinted a little bit, and you didn't miss much with this documentary. It didn't do much to endear Harlan Ellison to us, anyways. But they say he's brilliant, so he must be. But
You'd like him, Mark. He just says, he's blunt. He just pow.
But he talks about when they got to the Guardian and everything, there were people still on the planet, and there was a city off in the distance, and that was the city on the edge of forever.
Mm-hmm.
Not the guardian or passing through to whatever. His thing was this. There was this darkness about this episode, and that you can see that DC Fontana. And I could be wrong. Probably am. Doesn't really matter. Just an opinion. But I'm saying there were things in there that just seemed like, wow, that's really Star Trek-y.
Yeah. And well, to piggyback on that, not only DC Fontana, essentially from when you look it up, DC Fontana and Gene L. Kuhn, my guy.
That's right.
They're the ones that supposedly tweaked this screenplay and made it into what you ended up seeing. So yeah, I mean, there's very Trekkie fingerprints on it in places. It's like, whoa, in an otherwise bleak kind of dark story, you have this woman talking about, one day we will, and hey, she's leaving and we will do it in peace. We will do this peacefully. We will solve the Earth's problems, and we will cure diseases, and we will go forth in peace.
That's what I love about this episode, because although she's pushing peace, the episode clearly points out, and I don't care what the original intent was. I'm talking only about what we have received. The treatise we received says that everything she was pushing was wrong.
At least in timing.
No, it's wrong.
Well, that's what they said.
It's wrong.
Said she had the right message.
Her ideals were not wrong.
Her ideals are wrong because her ideals end you up with a city on the edge of forever where there's nobody left alive.
Well,
when you don't have the ability to defend yourself, you're waiting on the First Federation, not the First Federation. You're waiting on the alternate universe guys to beam in and blow you away.
Not alternate universe guys.
No, I'm using the alternate universe Star Trek episode.
Oh, you mean the Empire?
The Empire, because it's the same thing. There's a bunch of people who are peace loving and they're not going to fight back. And what was the order given?
The Hulkins.
The Hulkins. Wipe them all out. Being a peacenik gets you killed, plain and simple, because somebody else won't be.
Well, ideals have to be balanced with practical reality.
That's true.
But peaceniks don't live in practical reality. They want everybody to disarm and live dancing around the trees, and somebody else is going to come in and blow you away.
But Daystrom still got a phaser in his pocket.
You got that right.
And he has not come to sing Kumbaya.
You got that right. I'm joining Tracy, and we ruling this so-and-so.
We know that. We know that.
But it's the Edith Keeler idea sounds good. Yeah. It's one of those things that sounds good, but it's ultimately wrong. It's like, why don't we have universal income? But it sounds good, but it'll destroy the economy. So we look at these things and we see here in this episode a microcosm of good ideas that are what we think are good ideas, but are ultimately destructive ideas.
Anything done to the extreme is destructive.
Well, it's what the Admiral said. A lot of this comes down to, how did you say it? You said something that has to match the ideals.
Ideals have to be balanced by practical reality.
Exactly. So supposedly there was this in, I don't know, 1000 AD or something like that. There was these Indian tantric colonies that were all peaceful and loving and everything. And the Huns came in
until somebody found them.
Yeah, and they just ate them up like chocolate covered cherries. Like, there's a point where you gotta get on the wall and fire an arrow.
Can you see me? Thank you, Captain, for proving my point.
Did you just break the fourth wall? Is that what you just did?
I broke I'm looking at the camera. Thank you.
Did you just break the fourth wall, Deadpool?
Absolutely. Because that peacenik stuff will get you murdered.
Those ideals not failing to recognize the reality of the situation, of course. Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to agree to your disarmament.
Who said, hope for peace but prepare for war?
Ronald Reagan.
No. It's a paraphrase. I think ultimately it's a paraphrase of Sun Tzu.
Oh, okay.
He says something like that.
Yeah.
He says it more complex, but it's
accurate.
ultimately it's a paraphrase of Sun Tzu.
Nah, it's Reagan.
Where do you think Reagan got it from?
But
you think Bozo the Chimp told him that when he was making the movie?
Bonzo.
Bonzo the Chimp.
Bedtime for Bonzo.
Bedtime for Bonzo,
baby.
and Bozo the Clown.
So the thought, Edith Keeler standing up and she's giving her impassioned speech, and Kirk's just
what I love.
He's hit the music. hit the, Kirk's biting.
No,
hard.
What I love about this scene is, like, you're right. Kirk's going down. He's looking at her like, oh wow. Spock's behind him, looking at him like, we don't have time for this. Don't do this now.
Yeah,
Spock's looking at him like, there he goes.
Kirk, the old cartoon of the wolf. His eyes are sticking out, lick. Kirk is licking his chop.
That was another thing when I was a kid, when there's a point where Kirk goes, Mr. Spock, I think I'm falling in love with Edith Keeler. And I'm like, why? Seriously,
because
why?
She's speaking his language.
She's intelligent and idealistic and cute and stuff.
She's speaking his language.
And you talk about not focused on the mission. I'm not here to find.
So you're mad at me? I'm just doing it honest.
You're not even going on the mission.
I'm not. Well, he was on the mission and forgot all about McCoy.
Without Spock,
he going to the movie.
Without Spock, there's no way they would have done this. Kirk was out after day one.
There's what they call
day two. He was
okay. There's what they call mission creep. That's what Kirk was suffering.
Yeah, he was creeping something.
Yeah, he was creeping.
There's what they call mission creep, where you get off track.
Kirk creeping.
There's what you call mission creep, and then it's called abort mission.
He was thinking hard about letting the universe die.
He was
like, yeah, you know what? Maybe
you're mad at me.
I'm not.
I'm not doing it over some girl. I'm doing it over my own survival.
Can you at least go?
I told you I'd go somewhere.
Not there.
Not there. Say I'm 35 years old. I've got maybe 40 more years of life. I'll pick somewhere in the Federation 40 years before it disappears.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
You gonna go in a race, huh? Can I die of old age before everything goes?
That's right.
I'm not gonna go cut myself and die of tetanus.
Oh no, I'm living my life.
Little House on the Prairie with Laura Ingalls. No,
living my life.
There's nothing romantic about an outhouse. There's not.
No.
Flush toilets? Forget it. Not going.
So Edith Keeler is giving her impassioned speech, and Kirk is bought in, and Spock's watching this. And
Kirk don't care about what she was saying.
Spock's working on his...
Oh, he cares.
Spock's working on his device, and he goes, Captain, I need 4 to 5 pounds of platinum.
Kirk's like, I make 15 cents an hour. You're not getting
it. That was probably all the platinum on the planet at the time.
But no, there's... In that part, though, interesting cinematography here, and they don't hit you over the head with it. Almost every scene switch in this episode is blowing by at least a day.
I'll tell you, this
time is passing.
This episode went quick.
Yeah, but
there wasn't a wasted second in this.
Yeah.
Well put together, very well put together.
Editing,
the only
pacing.
The only hint you get that time has passed is they go scene switch, and you see the same person wearing different clothes, and you don't know if it's the next day, 2 weeks ago. You don't know, but time is passing.
There was that weird sequence though that I had pointed out when she caught them. They had stolen some watchmaker's tools.
Yeah, and
she came down there and she said, "Look, that's not right." And Spock's like, "I would have given them back." And Kirk was like, "Listen."
If Spock says he'll do it.
Listen, if Spock says he's going to give it back to you, you just believe him.
He hits her with this Godfather line.
Yeah.
He's a good guy and you're going to get your tools back, so shut up,
Yeah.
And then she's like, under one condition, if you walk me home.
Well, that's a good episode. That's a good part of the episode, though. But the setup is they're doing their handyman chores. They're cleaning up,
and they see precision tools.
See a guy working on a watch.
But even that,
Spock goes, "We need those."
Even that though, Jim's right. Our fine, upstanding Starfleet officers have gone total gangster.
Of course,
Spock standing in the corner nudging Jim to me. Hey, Jimmy.
He's leaning on a broom and he goes like this.
You're mad at me.
No, I'm not mad.
Because I don't want to do the mission and I'm maintaining my integrity.
No, listen.
I'm not going to steal it and rob
integrity.
it. Yeah.
Please. Kidnapping Uhura through time and abandoning the mission. Where's the integrity of that?
I'm giving Uhura a safe place to go.
Kidnapping.
I'm going to protect her.
Kidnapping. Trafficking in African communication officers.
They cut to a shot of looks like Kirk's hand and Edith's hand holding hands.
They're walking down the
and
street.
then they show
holding
this
hands.
radio store for about 20 seconds.
That's supposed to be closed, or it's for rent.
And it's playing, I guess,
There's music playing.
romantic music. But then it cuts to them just walking down the street. And I'm like, the hand holding.
But they show
was
the radio.
strange.
They show the radio. The radio's playing. So they've been there long enough. They've been there long enough for her to get comfortable with him. And in spite of, him and Spocky the fish stealing stuff, walk me home.
Well, we sort of skipped over a spot where Spock starts to build his contraption, and you got all
that's kind of what I was getting at in the time blow by.
You got all these vacuum tubes and
Yeah,
stuff.
their room
and
is full of.
Spock's using a knife to try to fine tune something.
Mm-hmm.
And then Edith Keeler walks in, and the conversation they're having with Kirk, he's always talking about what the future is like.
Yeah.
And she sort of figures that somewhat off.
She's a smart lady. She's picking it up. Like the fact that Spock just can't stop calling him Captain.
Right.
That was messed up on Spock's part. Spock should have, ixnay on the captain tail.
But I think it's funny the interplay between Kirk and Spock, because when Spock's asking for all these rare earth elements,
Kirk's like,
this is the 1920s, man, 1930s. We ain't got no money, and these elements haven't even been found yet.
Hey, 15 cents an hour in 1930.
Yeah, that's pretty respectable.
Loaf
But
of bread.
Spock's asking for a couple of pounds of gold and this, that, and the other. You're not getting that
Kirk's
stuff.
like, Spock, you're
Kirk
high.
comes in with a bag of like kale,
Some
a
leeks.
day old bread, and he's like, I just spent all our money, and you're not getting
Yeah,
anything.
Spock, you get lettuce, I get bologna.
Yeah.
I bought you one piece of wire, and we got 10 cents left.
Mm-hmm.
You know what came to my mind? And it always goes to some type of movie or something later on in movie making, Back to the Future, where they go back into the West, and Doc Brown has to create this board processor for the time car.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this huge vacuum tube board on the front hood of the car to make up for one little chip. That goes in my, but obviously that's a Rob. That's a Rip. Rip is the greatest sci-fi show ever.
You going on the record with that, huh?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna argue with that. If you disagree, hit us up in the comments, and we'll tell you you're wrong.
But I want to hear some more Godfather.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, these guys. You talk about adapting quickly. These guys are like, hey, do what we got to do.
Didn't he? Was he? He was like a gangster. He's leaning up there. He's like, he just tells her. He's
Well,
like,
she comes down because they see the tools. Obviously, Spock or Kirk, whoever, confiscates the tools.
But the fact that she
you
knew
see Spock breaking the lock.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
they
right,
show
that's right.
Spock. But
He
did
picks
she
the
see
lock.
him do it?
No,
She comes down there and she goes, "You went through that lock like she knew."
But
she
they don't
knew
sh-
what had happened.
They don't show her.
they don't show her.
But she's so smart. She's like, that lock got picked. These things are okay. Yeah, I'm going over here.
So she questions and says, "Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. Don't lie to me." And they said, "Yeah, we took it."
But Jim's right.
And Spock's like,
Kirk goes to her and takes her by the hand and goes, "Forget about it. Forget about it. It's all right."
Yeah.
so if he said that we'll return to him by the end of the day or whatever, and he said, if Spock said it,
James,
God dog it, woman, that's good enough.
James T. Corleone.
Can you walk me home?
James T. Corleone.
Got him a walk home.
See, and for all you fellas out there, if you think women really like sensitive men, watch that scene again and realize that you're mistaken.
Damage control on that one. So they finally figure it out. Spock ends up loading the entire room full of vacuum tubes. And he plays it back. And no, his first attempt, he said, look, she either dies in a week or in 6 years, she's like with FDR telling him how to run the planet, the free world.
One of the most influential people.
And Kirk's like, I need to know which one it is. And he's like, well, she's supposed to die, I think.
Yeah.
So.
And then he sets the room on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
And then McCoy appears like the Archangel Gabriel.
No, McCoy come. Well, first of all, the scene is there's some bum on the street who's stealing a gallon of milk off somebody's doorstep, and just as he picks up the milk, it'd have been better if they showed him take a swig of booze.
Oh, hold on, before we get there, I want to make a point of when she's questioning him about the tools. She picks up the difference of Kirk and Spock towards everybody else, and how it seems like Spock belongs next to Kirk, like he's always been there, always will be there, and that Kirk belongs somewhere else.
But the contamination of the Guardian shows itself again.
But that's what I'm driving at. She has an uncanny ability to read people. It's beyond intelligence. She reads people in a way that's not normal. It comes across that way in the episode. I don't think they intended that, but they give her stuff.
You know, there's a theory that Edith is the Guardian.
I didn't know that.
I just made it up.
Oh, you did? That's your theory? That's Palpatine's theory?
She is the Guardian.
Hey, that makes as much sense as who Ray turned out to be. Palpatine.
And then Kirk actually he busts the whole Prime Directive. He tells her about the future. He tells her about space travel. He points to the star.
But he
Prime Directive.
But he does it all tongue in cheek with a smile on his face.
Still did it.
Romancing his girl.
Put himself on report.
Points out Vulcan. Points out Vulcan in the night sky.
Okay.
He says, you see that star? You look a little to the left, you know? And, you know, she calls him out on the whole captain thing. He's like, you two have always been together. And she's like, were you in the war together? And she's talking about World War I. Mm-hmm. You know, which is when I said, and she's like, let me guess, you don't want to talk about it. And Kirk just kind of smiles. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, they were bayoneting everybody, but
So they go for their little walk. You hit the music, lovey dovey. They go for their little walk.
Let it run for a while.
And they make the conversation, and he's pointing out the stars, and you see them coming closer.
And closer.
And I mean, not physically, but emotionally, they're intertwining. And the reason they're there is disappearing in Kirk's mind. Next, the scene goes to Spock, and he's working on the tricorder, and he sees a picture of Edith Keeler that she dies.
Yes.
And then he goes to look at other stuff, and the board blows up. The board catches on fire.
Right.
And then Kirk comes back in after his beautiful walk with Edith, and Spock is informing her, hey, she dies. And I think this is what McCoy does.
She's the temporal disturbance.
She's the temporal disturbance.
Known as the Guardian.
The tremor in the force.
So McCoy prevents her from dying. So later on, he fixes the board, and he's got more vacuum tubes in the bedroom.
Yeah, I don't know where they're sleeping, but
I know where Cook is sleeping.
He sees that Edith Keeler meets the president.
Edith Keeler. Edith Keeler, sweet.
He sees that Edith Keeler meets the president, and he's talking to Kirk, and Kirk's happy about it. Oh, she's
he's proud.
Influential. My girlfriend is a big deal. My baby mama. My baby mama know Biden.
Just like every. When do you say that name? Just like every guy, when it's his girl, he's proud of her. He's like, hey.
The crux is that there's two realities. Which one is true? And they have to spend the time to try to figure this out, and they're still waiting on McCoy because they don't know what McCoy will do.
But when
or
Spock,
which reality is right.
but the time you're pointing to the second go around, this is also where Spock figures out how she messes everything up and what it leads to.
You know, he says it.
Yeah.
He spells it out. He goes, listen, she delays
The U.S.
entry into World War II long enough
for the
that
Germans,
the Germans
to develop the bomb.
Yep, to complete their heavy water experiments.
And their V2 rockets.
Her peacenik anti-war ways cause us to lose Starfleet.
Cause us to lose World War II, lose the planet.
Lose Starfleet. The planet is still there.
I don't know if it
Earth is
is.
still there.
I don't know if it is.
I don't
No,
know.
you guys were Admiral Red Shirt telling me we should have had Germans on the Enterprise.
Yeah, I think it's Reich Fleet. I don't
think the planet survives.
It could. There were little bombs back then.
Yeah, but I think that what was going to stop it?
You never proceed into a future where you would have Starfleet. That's the whole crux
Yeah.
of it.
Well, Starfleet as they knew
Her
it. No.
her peacenik ways cause you to lose the future.
No argument there. No argument. Yeah.
So you're right, Admiral. Or you're right, Captain.
The Admiral is right.
So you're right, Captain. Say it. Say it.
You're right, Captain.
Say it.
You're right, Captain. You're right, Captain. Keeler is the Guardian.
But this is what I love about the episode. So now you're faced with the choice of the love or the future.
Kirk is faced with that choice.
That's not a choice.
Kirk is faced with that choice. But we were kidding around when we were, and I don't know if we were, when we were watching it.
I wasn't kidding.
That Spock was going to walk upstairs and throw her down a flight of stairs
Well-
and not even think about it.
Well, no.
And we said
It's-
that's what's going to get us kicked off of YouTube.
It's one thing. It's one thing up to that point. Up to that point, I can give Kirk his feelings. I still think he's wrong for getting off mission, considering what's at stake. But when Spock tells you the Third Reich wins the war because of the cutie pie upstairs, things change. I don't care how I feel. I got something I got to do.
Well, he does.
No, he doesn't. He's still in this quandary. Kirk hasn't made his decision.
Because what happens right after that?
Okay.
What happens?
Kirk hasn't made his decision yet.
What happens right after
Well,
that?
she stumbles down the stairs and he catches her.
Right. And Spock's looking at him like, what are you doing? That could have been our big chance. Spock's like, hey, man, I get why you did what you did, but if you would let her go,
You're messing up, bro. You're messing up.
We might be done.
Yeah.
You're messing up, bro.
I think if I was
You gotta let her
Spock
go.
and I'm sweeping floors and cleaning up in a soup kitchen, I'm walking upstairs with a broom handle.
Now, let's
Not a broom handle. She deserves better than that.
let's look at this.
A pillow.
Your best friend is down for a woman who will be detrimental to him his entire future.
Forget him.
You talking about marriage?
Everything.
I'm talking in general. This is what the story comes down to.
No, not just him.
This is what the story boils down to. He's into a girl so deep that his future is negated.
His? Forget his.
It's everybody's, but the whole point.
Hey, look.
So
If Kirk's going to blink out of existence, fine, go forth.
Exactly.
But everything blinks out.
that's the whole point.
Spock is the ultimate safety valve in this.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. He's the only one keeping his head.
His lack of emotions have made him the one who can point out the fallacy. People get wrapped up in their emotions all the time.
Yeah.
So they're stuck in time.
Spock maintains his detachment.
Trying to prevent something that has already happened in their time.
Right.
Because McCoy's already did the damage in their time.
And we know Spock is capable of that because
Spock's capable of killing them both.
in the Taste of Armageddon, Kirk turns to him and goes, "Look, we're going to try to take this easy, but if we need to," and Spock's like, "Okay." I think a year after this, or 6 months into it, or whatever, he's throwing her down a flight of stairs.
But this is what
Sooner than that.
this is what I loved about this episode. It's the position that the captain is in.
That's terrible.
That he has to make a hard decision. You don't sit in a big chair making easy decisions. You get to that level because you're supposed to be able to make the hard decision. You decide who goes in the Jeffries tube, right?
That's right.
You pick. I picked Finney.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
There was a rouster. It was Finney's turn.
It was Finney, right? But it was his buddy. He could have said no,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't. In the possibility, I might have to jettison you, right?
Right.
Right.
You're in the big chair.
Mm-hmm.
These are weighty situations.
So I put my knife screwdriver in Kirk's hand and tell him to go do the right thing.
Let's go back to Balance of Terror, or more like when we did Balance of Terror, we talked about World War II submarines.
Right.
You've got a compartment that is leaking, and a valve needs to be shut off. You're trying to save the compartment. You send somebody in there to fix the leak,
But you seal the compartment.
but you might have to seal the compartment and lose that guy.
You seal the compartment, and whether he succeeds or not. Yeah.
But that's a decision you have to make. Our lives are one guy's life.
Right.
So when you look at this is why I love this episode. It made Star Trek so much more real in the consequences and the responsibilities that are put on people when they have it's a crazy scenario, but it's a scenario nonetheless that has to be dealt with.
Right.
And the gravity of it. If it's all lighthearted, if it's Orville all the time, ooh, we drinking big gulps on the bridge. You're like, man, I have no respect. I like the show. I don't want to get anybody get me wrong. I like Orville, but Orville's not first gen Star Trek. It's not. It holds no gravity.
It's influenced by it, but it doesn't try to be.
It holds no gravity. The original episodes hold so much weight to them, and just in my mind.
They do.
I don't know about the rest of you.
They do. That's kind of why we're here.
So
It's tough. This is a tough episode when you're a kid watching it. It was for me because it's not a happy ending.
No.
It's not a happy ending.
no, it's a realistic ending.
Very real.
Yeah.
And that's why as a kid, I loved this episode. It was a dirty, gritty. You ain't walking. Sometimes as a kid, you're gonna get into a fight with the bullies. You might get a punch into. You might win, but you ain't walking around cheesing. Coming home with a black eye. You might have a busted lip, but you won.
Yeah.
And you swagger a little bit better. You know, you might stick with your chest out, but you're gonna have some hurt. You're gonna have some hurt body parts.
You might, more realistic, you might be dragging yourself home not feeling good about it at all, even win or lose.
But that's the reality of
It is reality.
all this other stuff we see, everything has this rosy ending, a happy ending. It's not always a happy ending.
No.
You're lucky if you survive. They're the first ship and they survive.
I think too.
They'll
Also,
be having a party.
it gives, at least for me, I never have shaken off the belief that this changed Kirk
Oh, without a doubt.
forever.
Yeah. It's also, I could be wrong. This is episode 28 of the first season. This is the tail end of the first season, but this is probably the first time the Enterprise literally saved everything. Not the last time by far, but might be the first time where they literally saved existence.
Yeah, there's one more episode to the end of the first season.
Right.
Because this is the first real Kobayashi Maru for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a no-win scenario
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no,
for him.
For him, yeah.
Well, you have to determine what's winning. Winning is the universe as he knows it continues on.
You win.
It's the cost of it.
Mm-hmm.
He wins a scenario, but what does the scenario cost you? So you're fighting 3 Klingon warbirds. How much of your ship are you going to lose to survive it? Or do you destroy your ship and get your crew off?
Yeah.
Okay, your crew gets on planet. That goes back to Decker. Okay, I can't beat the planet killer. I beat my crew down. Was that a win for Decker? It wasn't until the planet killer eats the planet. He saved his crew until the planet killer eats the planet. So you look at these scenarios, and you're faced with a choice that's the best of What, two evils?
No, it's the best outcome you can manage. You
Both
can hope
evils,
for.
both outcomes are bad.
Lesser of two evils is what
Lesser,
you're shooting
thank
for.
you.
Well, the other thing is though, even though Starfleet doesn't exist at this point, they're still officers, and they still have a duty to perform.
That's kind of where I'm at, and the fact that Kirk gets so lost in this whole thing is kind of like, for me.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was believable. It was well written.
Oh, very.
But when he says, does he say, "I think I'm falling in love with her," or I am in love with her?
He says, "I think."
Oh, okay.
It's a weird. It's well written, but it's a weird statement because it's almost like, I think I've caught a disease. It's almost like,
Yeah, it wasn't enough for him to just be sad that a woman had to die. He had to be in love with her.
yeah. But the way he says it, he's like, I know this isn't conducive to what we have to do, but this is where I'm at.
Can we talk about your favorite part now?
Well, yeah, we kind of blew past like when McCoy arrives,
Oh yeah,
because there's a whole thing going on parallel to this.
yeah, that's true. That's true. We haven't even touched McCoy.
And I don't remember this at all. When I saw it, when you guys go, this is one of my favorite parts, and I'm like, I don't have any recall of this at all.
So there's a guy who is
Bum.
no, I won't use the American me not to use the word.
Someone who's down on his luck.
Someone who is
A fellow American who's
Fellow
down on his
American
luck.
living who's down on his luck.
Pardon me. can you-
someone who
Pardon
is
me.
a milk
residently
American who's
challenged.
down on his luck.
a milk stealing
He's residently.
milk
He's not a bum. He's residently
a
challenged.
milk stealing bum.
So he goes to steal a bottle of milk, and he sees McCoy jump out of thin air,
There.
and he's shocked.
With a bad case of acne.
Yeah,
McCoy looks like he's risen from the dead and he's seeking the flesh of the living. He's not looking
yeah,
good.
he
Yeah.
looks bad,
Yeah.
and this guy's just scared, crazy.
And McCoy appears out of nowhere yelling, "Murderers! Assassins!"
So this guy, this guy's so afraid he drops the milk, and McCoy runs up to him.
That hurt my feelings.
McCoy runs up to him and grabs him and says, and shakes him. They're coming for us and they're going to kill us. And
Gotta
all
get
that
out of
stuff.
here. Where are we? What planet is this?
So you see McCoy still.
And then he thinks he's in some sort of simulation.
Yeah, he thinks
He's in a holodeck.
He thinks it's something fake. He's like, "This is amazing." The
Right down the
details.
cement columns. And
So what happens? McCoy passes out,
Yeah.
and the bum starts to. Excuse
bum.
me.
Bum.
Residently challenged
Because
individual.
you know why he's a bum? Because describe what he does next.
The residently challenged individual starts to filch McCoy's pocket.
He rolls him. That's what they used to call that.
yeah.
Poor McCoy is down unconscious, and
Yep.
the dude and the bum
You gotta
rolls.
you gotta roll him
rolls
to get to his wallet.
him. Rolls
The
him.
residently challenged individual
Bum. Thieving bum rolls a helpless unconscious man.
starts to check his pockets and comes across a goodie, which is what
Type 1 phaser.
Type 1 phaser.
Looks like a pager.
And in his ignorance, he turns it on overload.
And zots himself out of existence.
That's himself out of it.
That's what happens when you always find you always see these science fiction movies and somebody finds high tech whatever
And they're just
and they pick it up and
they're
they're
just
able to,
fine.
They
Yeah.
pick it up and they're able to use it and they use it and become super with it. Well, what would normally happen is you do something you're not supposed to and kill yourself
Zot
with it.
yourself
Do you
out of
remember that incredibly bad movie called Laser Blast?
Oh yeah.
Oh. You want to if we
Oh, yeah.
if Men on Trek ever review a movie,
Oh yeah, that's a stinker. That's a stinker from way back. 1970 something stinker.
Oh, that's horrible.
1970 something stinker. That's a stinker, man. I liked it because it was on his arm. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a stinker. Woohoo.
The symbiotic blaster.
But the whole point is, here it is. A guy in the past finds a futuristic weapon, and what does he do? He kills himself with it
and destroys the weapon.
and destroys the weapon.
I didn't remember him setting it on overload and just completely vaporizing. I thought he set it on no evidence and zotted himself and the thing fell to the ground. But he overloaded it.
he overloaded it.
No.
He overloaded it.
Consequences.
Comeuppance.
Your actions have consequences.
Getting what you deserve.
This story is full of it.
Oh, there is nothing but that.
Consequences. You ain't walking around here rosy. Oh, I roll this guy and I'm gonna get a lot of money and I'm gonna live high and hard. You pick up a phase and you kill yourself.
So McCoy sleeps it off in the alleyway, stumbles into the shelter, and says, "Boy, that coffee smells good." And she's like, "Let me take you back in the bedroom and lay you down."
You look hard. You look like you desire the flesh of the living. Let me take you in the back so you can take a nap.
Yeah, McCoy looks terrible.
They've got him painted almost white with all these splotches over his face. He looks like he should just be like, "Ugh."
Yeah. I think even his hair, they had done stuff with it.
Yeah, he looks bad. So Edith Keeler takes him in, and now Kirk and Spock are in one room,
and McCoy's in the basement.
and McCoy is in another room. Neither one of them know
for days.
Neither one of them know they're there because he's out.
For days.
She nurses
Edith
him back
has
to
a
health.
lot of men coming and going. First of all,
that's true.
And
She
then-
nurses him back to health.
yeah.
Though.
And then number two is that they give you a nice tease because as soon as she puts her arm around him, starts to walk him away, Spock
walks
comes out
into
and
the
starts
kitchen.
serving coffee.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just missed him by
Seconds.
See, that's what I told you. Me and Uhura, was that McCoy? No, I didn't see nobody.
You're not even
But
going
you
to
notice,
jump.
but you
Come on,
notice,
baby.
you notice how the Guardian, in the form of Edith, made sure that she just pushed him out of the way before Spock could see
No,
him.
that's a bogus. Because if the Guardian was there to lead them, he would have led them right to him. Here he is.
It's a
I
test.
found him, y'all.
It's a test. It's a test. It's a Guardian
I would have been
test.
like Spock. Me and
Yes.
Mo-
There's a whole nother movie here. It's called There's Something About Edith. It's beyond her being a smart, intuitive person. It's beyond that.
So she takes McCoy in. She nurses McCoy back to health. What I like
For
is when,
days.
What I like is when he gets a little bit of his senses and he's talking like McCoy again. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if this is a dream or,
Hallucination.
a hallucination. And he goes, I'm quite sure you're a hallucination though. So you're too good to be true.
Well, she says, I'm finding it hard to believe what you're saying. And he goes, but that's okay, because I don't believe in you
You
either.
So, but you get how good Edith is.
She's very, yeah.
How good Edith is.
Well, if you're an immortal Guardian that's been waiting millions of years for this to happen.
Space Angel.
Stop that line. Stop that line.
Space Angel.
But here you go. In 1930, where things are terrible, the person who's taking care of people, the person who's taking people off the street.
I got one for you.
Hold on, let me stop. Let me finish my tirade.
Yeah.
The person,
One of many.
the person who is bringing peace
Peace.
and joy.
But you said peace is bad.
Peace and joy.
And I know you don't believe in joy.
Peace and joy to the world has to die.
Look at you. That's why you like it.
I love it because
Peace and joy.
You're caught in the juxtaposition. They built her up. Edith is perfect. She gets up and gives her monologue, and Kirk goes, he's falling for her. McCoy, she heals the doctor.
Yes,
She does.
she does.
She does.
She's the space angel.
And if they had blown by one more day, Kirk and McCoy have been rolling in the street fighting over.
She's a space angel, but she's got.
Better known as
die.
the Guardian.
I got one for you. Palpatine's theory. How did Edith pay for that flop house? Where did all that food come from?
I don't know. She must have a husband with a lot of money who died.
She got a flashy donut in the back of one of them rooms. She got a mini version of the Guardian.
She
portal.
got a donut replicator in the back of the
That's
house.
right.
They do not explain it. But she's the best of the best.
Yeah.
This is a scenario. And the best person on the face of the planet. I like to say when Spock goes through and anytime Edith Keeler meets with the president and Edith Keeler does this and brings peace, which allows Germany to do what they're going to do and because they're the evil.
Well, she doesn't really bring peace. She delays us entering the war.
She
and then it's too
spreads
late.
the pacifism movement in America.
Right, which doesn't help because
So she joins Neville Chamberlain and pushes the pacifist movement that we don't non-intervention.
You know why Neville was in it, right?
Yeah, I know I never was in it, but that doesn't matter. In the context of the story, she and him are on the same path.
Well, I can fix it for you because in real history, the people in the United States who wanted to keep America out of World War II, that was a whole communist thing. And they didn't want us to fight the Nazis until the Nazis turned on Stalin, and then they changed their minds and they wanted us to fight Stalin.
Look at that, huh?
So Edith's a commie. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Daystrom's fine with that. So then McCoy just needed, like I said, a couple of days in a cot and
couple of Advils,
hit some aspirin and some coffee, and he's cured of the lethal overdose of the future drug. And he says to Edith, what can I do to help out around here? And she's like, well, we'll talk about that later, but I'm going to the movies with my boyfriend. Clark Gable movie.
Clark Gable movie.
You don't know? He's like, what the heck is
what's a Clark Gable movie?
He knows
what a movie
just
is.
like he does. Like, you don't know nothing. And he's like, okay. And then we cut, and she's walking out with Kirk, and Spock, ditches them. And
Spock
they walk across the street, the busy street, because don't cross at a corner. And Edith drops the bomb. She says, Dr. Leonard McCoy is...
No, she goes, he says, what are we doing? And she goes, we're going to see a Clark Gable movie. And he goes, what's a Clark Gable movie? And she goes, McCoy said the same thing. And Kirk goes, McCoy? Yeah, Dr. Leonard McCoy. She's
been living in the basement for a week.
And Edith couldn't do one simple thing that she was asked. If these women would do what was asked of them, they might survive. He told Edith, stand still, stay right here, don't move from this street, woman. When I go meet my boy. So he calls for Spock. It's Spock. And he starts running across the street. McCoy comes out the door. And it was like the big bro hug. It was like,
oh yeah, there was some bromance there.
And you felt good.
The band was together
Spock
again.
was hugging too, wasn't he?
You felt good. All of them.
Yeah,
they all
rushed
together. You felt good because the whole story is about coming together with McCoy, getting McCoy, and preventing this problem from happening. So they all come out, and you're like, yeah, the team's back together. And Edith couldn't do what she was asked.
You didn't want her to do what she was asked.
She starts walking towards the bromance.
Don't say that.
No. She starts walking towards the bromance, not paying attention to what's happening. And McCoy notices it, that she's walking the street and a truck is coming.
That there's a deuce and a half coming at her?
The truck is coming. And McCoy
big truck
moves to stop her.
Save her.
And Kirk turns, sees her, and then turns back and grabs McCoy.
Yeah.
And hugs McCoy, holding McCoy in place.
And they zero in on Kirk's face.
He actually turns McCoy.
Yeah.
But Kirk is now looking at Edith, and McCoy's looking in the opposite direction.
So cold.
Yeah.
And the truck hits Edith. If the woman would have done what her man asked her to do, she would have been alive. And Spock would have had to thrown her down the stairs. But she wouldn't have got hit by a truck.
The views of Captain Daystrom are his own. He do not necessarily represent those of Men on Track.
Except for the part where Edith has to die. We fully endorsed that part.
But that's why this episode, man.
But then Bones tells him,
yeah,
in real time,
don't you know what you did?
I could have saved her. You stopped me. Do you know what you did?
You deliberately stopped me.
And then Spock answers the question.
He knows.
Yes, he knows. Mm-hmm. And that's like, man, that was so much weight in that episode. It reminds me, Mega Glory, when Kirk and Spock, was it Mega Glory or Bread and Circuses, where I think it's Bread and Circuses, where Spock and McCoy were having a conversation in the jail cell. Mm-hmm. And McCoy's like, you know what, Kirk's going to die. Don't you care? And they just had that conversation
Right.
of the weight of it. This episode, in my mind, rates with that episode, the weight.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because then you see them appear through the Edith Keeler portal, and Spock and Kirk come through first, then McCoy, and they see that Kirk has he's taken some hit
no
points.
smiling faces.
No.
They should be rejoicing, but there's no smiling faces.
And it's the 1960s.
Well, part of
Kirk says, "Let's get the hell out of here."
Well, before that,
that's what he says. He says, "Let's get the hell out of here."
Scotty says, "You guys only been gone a second."
Yeah, that's they're confused initially.
He said, "You're back. You only been gone a second." And then McCoy pops out, and ain't nobody smiling. They just had a bro hug, and you would think they would be from the rest of the crew. You would think they'd be happy.
Well, they're initially confused, like you're back, like instantly. What?
But when McCoy comes out, they'd be like, "Man, we did it." But there ain't no smiling faces.
Nope.
Kirk ain't smiling. McCoy not smiling. Spock not smiling. Not the Spock that ever smiles.
Not since the pilot.
There's no smiling faces out of these three, and there's no confirmation that everything's good.
Other than that, they're back.
The Enterprise is back. Well,
I don't even think they knew that yet.
That tells me things are good.
No, Uhura says the ship's
ship's
signaling
gone.
us or something.
That tells me things are good, but y'all ain't smiling. What's wrong?
Kirk says one line.
Yeah, he says,
"Let's get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
That's how the episode. None of them sitting on the bridge with them, like,
no happy.
Well,
music.
Mr. Spock, I got great faith in you. Oh, that's an insult. None of that. He was like, "Let's get the hell out of here." They that was it.
They quarantined.
They roll the credits.
They
quarantined.
That's another one where it's like you never circle back on that. This thing exists, and you never hear about it.
They did it in other franchises of Star Trek.
Not that though. This planet exists. This device exists.
They actually did it on. What's the latest Star Trek?
I don't know.
Discovery.
Discovery. I think they did. They revisited on Discovery.
Oh, do they? Okay.
I think so. I never seen a Discovery episode in my life and never will. But I think they.
I think you're right. But that's messed up because that's before Kirk finds it.
Yeah.
Well, Star Trek writing of today
problem
is not equal to writing of.
But it's one of those things.
1960.
It's a powerful episode. It's a very well written episode. I guess for me, because of everything we've talked about, the tone, it's an excellent episode in terms of the gravity and the story. It's just kind of a bummer. And that's why I guess it never in my mind, it just never.
It's not a bummer.
Oh, it's a bummer.
No. Bros before.
Oh my goodness.
It's not about that. It's about.
What do you mean?
It's not about that.
The guy's making it back.
It's not about that.
Woman died.
No, it's about the whole universe. It's about reality. It's about a hard decision having to be made for the bigger picture.
Bros.
No. Not what it's about. That's not what it's about at all.
I know, but it just flowed at that moment.
Oh man,
Edith had to die.
She did.
It's unfortunate.
It's a powerful episode.
It's a very powerful episode.
Get out of here. Let's get out of here before
Kirk says, "Let's get the hell out of here."
Men on track. This one's in the bag. Post in the comments how you would have killed Edith Keeler.
click unlike.
Don't do that.
Don't subscribe.
Don't comment about how you would kill.
Just comment. Just comment the object like Clue. On the stairs.
Don't do that either.
Garage pillow. 2x4 truck.
Oh my goodness.
I was just watching, or not watching. I was listening to Dark Tower, and there's a guy in Dark Tower called the Pusher.
Did you take us out?
No.
And in the Dark Tower, the pusher
I mean,
pushes
he's
people
just gonna keep going.
in front of a car, pushes a little boy in front of the car, kills a little boy.
Do you want YouTube to hear this?
Pushes,
Can we stop?
Doesn't matter.
This is how he would kill Edith. He's trying to tell.
pushes a lady in front of a train. Just came to mind. You can cut that out at the back end.
I think I have to.